Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're zooming all the way out to look at one of the absolute most fascinating character arcs on the internet right now. I mean, how exactly does a channel entirely dedicated to roasting obscure animated children's characters somehow evolve into a macro-level investigative critique of digital surveillance and educational technology? Well, it is a wild ride filled with algorithmic pressure, intense community backlash, and ultimately total reinvention. Okay. Let's dive right into this because this quote completely hooks us into the really high emotional stakes of modern YouTube commentary. It's not just about what we choose to watch anymore, right? It's about what the algorithm is literally force-feeding the next generation. When you confidently call it digital sludge, you aren't just making a critique, you are declaring war on the platform itself. So we're going to explore this massive evolution in 5 distinct steps. Who is SnipeSnap, the cartoon Brats era, exposing AI slop, the pivot to edtech, and finally, his downfall and rebirth. Chapter 1. Who is SnipeSnap? For a bit of background, SnipeSnap is a British creator who launched his channel back in April 2019. He initially built his prominence in the commentary community, which is a space really dedicated to critiquing internet and media culture, by creating these super engaging, deep dive essays. He didn't just casually review shows, he produced really high quality, almost psychological character analyses of children's television. And he'd always end things with his signature catchy sign-off: SnipeSnap, out. Now, what's really interesting here is the massive influence backed up by this number: 244,000 subscribers. In the incredibly crowded, highly competitive landscape of YouTube commentary, that is absolutely huge. To put that into perspective for a second, rival channels doing very similar cartoon commentary, like Matt Neff, sit at around 114,000 subscribers. SnipeSnap managed to capture this massive, super dedicated audience simply by treating childhood nostalgia with adult-level scrutiny. Chapter 2. The Cartoon Brats Era. So, SnipeSnap pretty much struck gold with his highly viewed essays on the British series Horrid Henry. But instead of just taking the easy route and calling Henry a brat, SnipeSnap completely flipped the script. He leaned hard into the deep irony of treating a kid's cartoon with deadly serious psychological analysis. He pointed out the normalization of abuse from the parents, who he famously and hilariously dubbed Fuming Francesca and Silly Simon. He basically argued that the show's writers made toxic, neglectful parenting seem totally normal to millions of kids. It was a brilliant, incredibly successful angle that made a lot of people stop and rethink their own childhoods. Recognizing he'd found a very lucrative niche, he expanded this exact formula into a hit series called Battle of the Brats. He roasted notorious, globally recognized characters like Caillou, D.W. Reed, and Peppa Pig. But then he also dug up incredibly obscure characters like Trust Ping from the Korean series Catch Teeny Ping and Thomas from Redmond Kids. Relentlessly analyzing the bad habits of fictional toddlers became this massive, highly successful engine for his entire channel. But let's be real, there is a ceiling to roasting cartoon children. As he got closer to that 200,000 subscriber mark, critics and even longtime fans started noticing some serious creative exhaustion. Commentary forums began throwing around the term content farming, which basically means churning out highly repetitive, low-effort stuff just to game the algorithm and keep your view counts artificially high. He was being accused of milking the exact same nostalgic topics dry. SnipeSnap was facing some intense creator burnout, which really sparked the need for a massive creative shift. Chapter 3. Exposing AI Digital Slop. SnipeSnap shifted gears and began going after the YouTube algorithm itself. He started fighting back against content that was, in his words, spat out by some lazy AI program. No human oversight, no quality control, just keyword baiting. He was finally shining a massive spotlight on the disturbing automated rage bait that was just effortlessly slipping right through the platform's supposed safety filters. And this brilliantly illustrates the core of the problem. He exposed a highly disturbing, systemic failure of the platform: automated AI shorts targeting literal children with wildly inappropriate themes. We're talking about things like a pregnant 4-year-old Peppa Pig. No joke. And you know what the most terrifying part is? The official Peppa Pig channel had a short with 3 million views over the span of 2 years. This AI-generated nightmare, it racked up over 5 million views in mere weeks. He used this deeply alarming content to forcefully question YouTube's safety standards, condemning the algorithms for exposing young, super vulnerable audiences to this unregulated trash. Chapter 4. The Pivot to EdTech. Let's move on and see how this builds, because this definitely wasn't an overnight change. It was a very deliberate evolution. Between 2023 and 2025, his focus was pure nostalgia and those cartoon reviews we talked about. By late 2025, he zoomed out a bit to expose AI digital trends. But in 2026, he left the cartoon community entirely to focus heavily on edtech software. He actually updated his channel description to promise a darker look at the edtech and shows we grew up with. It was honestly a brilliant thematic leap. Think about it. Instead of analyzing fictional kids suffering under bad cartoon parents, he began investigating real-world kids suffering under invasive classroom technology. His fast-paced, highly critical deep dives, demanding schools ban the surveillance software Go Guardian, or his deep investigations into the Blookit platform successfully pulled in hundreds of thousands of views. He proved beyond a doubt that his analytical skills carried real-world weight. Chapter 5. The Downfall and Rebirth. Now, as you might expect, the pivot caused intense polarization. Longtime subscribers who just wanted those simple cartoon retrospectives felt completely alienated. The vitriol really peaked when rival YouTuber Tukoth uploaded a massive rant calling SnipeSnap trash, accusing him of using generic editing, relying on lazy AI thumbnails, and completely abandoning his original identity just to chase the algorithm. It became a massive internal crisis for the channel. So the crucial point is that the pivot initially did cause a subscriber dip in early 2026. But instead of backing down and reverting to his old style, he uploaded a very raw meta video titled The Downfall of SnipeSnap. In it, he directly addressed his audience about exactly why the cartoon brat format was creatively dead to him. And you know what? That level of authenticity worked. It triggered a massive mid-2026 rebound, attracting an entirely new demographic and pushing him right back up to 244,000 subscribers. Which leaves us with this final, really important thought. SnipeSnap managed a feat that very, very few channels ever pull off. He survived the death of his original niche. But what does his wild journey actually tell us about the future? In a digital landscape completely dominated by content farming and algorithmic burnout, is constant radical reinvention literally the only true way for a creator to survive long-term? Think about that the next time you see your favorite channel suddenly change its tune. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.